Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. Today we're talking about my top 5 luxury bronzers. I recently did a very deep dive into my entire bronzer collection and I really broke down the categories, the textures, the finishes, the tones, all that jazz, which is very good and comprehensive, but this is a more precise video and I'm also going to include brushes and application tips. But before we go any further, let's take a second, grab our iced coffee or hot coffee. Let's take a sip and let's get started. So we're just gonna go ahead and start off strong. This is probably my all-time favorite bronzer. We have others to talk about today that are very good, but this, if I could only pick one bronzer for life, it would be this one. This is the Tom Ford bronzer in Terra. There are 2 shades available, but I prefer Terra because Terra is actually more cool leaning. And you'll see that once I compare this with some of the other ones today, it's going to look so much more cool toned than the rest. Finding a nice neutral cool bronzer these days is quite challenging. Brands seem to really want everything to be warm and brown. And listen, I understand. I get it. Something about bronzer gives that goddess glow, but you can get that with this bronzer here. This feels incredibly silky. It's a matte. It has a little bit of luminosity, a little bit of that healthy glow, but it's very subtle. And it really just, it doesn't lay flat on the face. It just sort of melts in, even though it's a powder. And it just looks sculpted, but very natural and very beautiful. And I'm not wearing any bronzer or blush. I'm gonna go ahead and do an application at the end. So spoiler, if I could only pick one, I would be picking the Tom Ford Terra. Next up is a new item that has really just taken me by storm. This is the RMS bronzer, and this is the shade Tan Lines. So this is new for RMS Beauty. Their bronzer line is new, and this is called the Redimension Hydra Bronzer. This is, it has a little bit of a give. It's not quite a gel, but it does feel like a little bit of a hybrid gel powder. You just can't quite put your finger all the way through. This has a beautiful finish. It is a little bit warmer, a little bit more yellow golden based compared to Tom Ford here. And this has more glow. This is a type of bronzer highlighter hybrid, not chunky glitter. It's not going to look too tacky or too luminous. It just gives you that healthy sun-kissed flush, like you've just been out in the sun all day. I quite like this one. This one is technically in the neutral leaning category, but once we compare it to Tom Ford, it actually looks like it has a little bit of gold pulling through. Next up is one from Dior, and I was a little bit, not apprehensive, but I had some reflection before mentioning this one here. This is their new bronzer for the summer. It's the 031 Coral Bronze. It's part of their summer release. So I love this beautiful harmony here. We have the more matte bronzer, and then in the center we have a deeper bronzer with highlighter and the coral color here. When I wear this on its own. I don't bother with any other complexion product really because it's just a multiple use product. One thing, the apprehension I've had is that this is starting to hit hard pan. You can sort of see it here with the texture, but I'm still able to pick up the product. So it's a little bit disheartening that this happened so quickly, but I still really enjoy it and I'm still able to use it the same way that I want. That's why it's still here. So this is the swipe of just the bronzer, and then this is the rest of the colors mixed together. So you can see that coral tangerine color pull through way more compared to these ones here. So if I'm wearing something warm, if I'm wearing like a punchy red lipstick for the summer, if I just want to lean into that more bronze, slightly tangerine orange shade, I use this palette here. So let me know in the comments if you've picked this one up this summer. Mine is looking very well loved. And what you think, if yours is turning hard pan, let me know in the comments. Next up is from Hermès. This is the Hermès Plein Air Age Trio. It has a very long name. It's their bronzer. And this is the shade number 2, Atlas. So this is one that technically has a soft harmony of 3 shades here, but they're all in the same family. They're all in the same tone family, I should say. You're not going to get blush and highlighter. It's just a subtle harmony and mix here. And I believe that these ones here are refillable. I think this is, no, the Hermès one and the RMS one are both refillable. So this one here, I find that the texture, the powder is very soft. One thing about Hermès powder products, whether it's the blush or the bronzer, I find them incredibly silky, and they have a similar quality to Tom Ford, where even though it's a powder, it really melts into the skin. It takes very little application. It feels incredibly silky, and something about the formula, it melts into the skin as if it were a liquid or a cream, which I really love. So it doesn't sit on top of the skin. It really melts. It becomes one with your face, and I really enjoy it. And the subtle shade variance is very, very subtle. You can't really pick it up, but it's just very beautiful and one of my favorites. And I love the Hermès packaging. This little logo here just fits very nicely. It's just very, very well done. Last but not least, we have another new item this summer. This is from Chanel. This is part of the Chanel Les Beige series, and this is one of the oversized bronzer, but this is the shade Medium Rose Gold. So this one here is another harmony. So technically on top, we have a highlighter, a bronzer, and a blush. I like to mix these two together, and I apply it as bronzer, and then I go into the blush and just tap it on. I think that this is a really great palette. I wasn't sure at first because I'm really not one for oversized palettes. They're just, like, they're fine, but it is not a selling point for me. They're just there. So this is the bronzer. This is the highlighter. They really just mix together well. At first I was concerned that the highlighter would be too deep for me. And then the Medium Rose Gold. It's such a pretty pink. It's like a slight fuchsia pink. It has a warm rose gold reflection in it. I think that the names for the Chanel oversized bronzers, they are related to the blush, not so much the bronzers or the highlighter. It's really just an indication of what the blush color is going to be like. And you can see that this bronzer is much deeper than some of the rest, but mixing it in with a highlighter lightens it, and you can see quite an interesting color palette here. I like all of these for very different reasons, and you can tell, look, Tom Ford looks so much more cool toned than the rest. This is why I picked these 5 here, not only because they're actually my favorite, but also they're my favorite for different reasons, for different occasions, for different outfits, for different makeup looks. Sometimes we like different things for different makeup, but if I only could choose one, it would be the Tom Ford. Now let's move on to brushes before we go into application, because I thought we could do a little demo here. So my absolute favorite bronzer brush is the Rephr 04 brush. This is called like the angled cheek brush, something like that, and you can see it's at an angle like this. I actually have multiples of this exact brush. I bought one and then Rephr sent me one, so now I just have multiples and I'm very happy. So the reason why this is my favorite for bronzer is that this just simply fits. Technically speaking, if you go to a makeup store, like if you go to MAC and you ask for a bronzer brush, they will give you something like this. This is the BK Beauty 03. This wide brush is technically called the bronzer brush. I just find that I just apply way too much, and it's just, things just get way overboard. But with this here, it just fits in the cheekbone. I can start back here in the hairline. I can just sweep it up, and this way I don't end up striping myself with bronzer everywhere. I can if I want to, but this just, it's more precise, and with makeup it's so much easier to add than it is to remove. So That's why it's almost always this one. Another one that I love is also from BK Beauty. This is the 112, but this is so small. It's even smaller than the Refer one. This is a mini one. It's much smaller. It's more precise. So it's, again, for me, I'd rather just have like teeny tiny little brushes and just add more and build more instead of trying to remove. If those brushes are dirty, because, you know, I'll be perfectly honest with you, even though I have a YouTube channel, I am human. Some days I fall behind on washing my brushes and I'm doing my makeup and I want to reach for this, but it's dirty. So instead I reach for this. This is the Angie Hot and Flashy A507. This is that perfect angle. I love, like, I'm a sucker for any cheek brush that's at an angle like this, at a bias, but this one here is a little bit bigger. So if I've been good and everything is washed and clean, it'll be the Refer 04. If not, it'll be this one here. And it is bigger, it's wider. So some people do prefer a wider brush. I personally don't, but it's still not too big. Like, it's still more precise than the official bronzer brush. So that's why I like to use it like this. So for the purposes of today's video, I'm going to use my Chanel Les Beige Medium Rose Gold because it has bronzer, highlighter, and blush. And I think that this beautiful blush here will go with my bodysuit. So I'm going to use my Refer 04. And if you have types of palettes or any blush, bronzer, whatever that's multi-use like this, that has stripes, a small brush like this, or even this one, would be ideal. Like, this one here would be better for the Dior because it's like, it's so small. You can go really precisely. Just a hint. So what I like to do is I like to sort of tap around like an hourglass, no, like a clock, you know, to sort of go back and forth like this. And you can always knock off. I like to start back here in my hairline and I go forward. I just added a little bit more to my brush here. And I'm following the bone here. Like, you can sort of feel, I don't know if you can hear, this cheekbone here. I'm following that. But I'm careful not to go down too much because I don't want to make my face and my features look too harsh and too heavy and to make them turn downward. I'm really just following the cheekbone. And if you need to stop and feel your way through, you can just go ahead and do that. And then I like to go into the hairline as well. On the forehead, the point of bronzer is to just add some warmth to areas where you would naturally get a bit of sun. So the top of the forehead here, a little bit on the bridge of the nose. You can also go underneath the jawline here if you want to add a bit of shadow, if you want to hide anything here. And I just go back and forth between those two, just tapping lightly. And even though this bronzer looks like it would be a little bit too dark for me, you can see mixing it with that highlighter makes it a bit softer. Now I'm just going to go into a blush brush here and just pick up the beautiful rose gold. Just knock off some of this here. And I like to just tap it on top. Sometimes I will go back into the highlighter just to add a little bit more highlighter, but I'll see how I feel. Okay, this is the finished look. I used a little bit of lipstick and lip gloss. The details are in the description box down below, but this is one of my favorite bronzers in use here. If you're new to my channel, I talk a lot about luxury beauty and I do lots of reviews and tutorials, so please make sure you're subscribed. And if you've been watching a few of my videos and you're not subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Just go ahead and hit subscribe. I promise you, you will enjoy it. So that is it for my recap of 5 luxury bronzers that are my favorite, and application tips and brushes. And I would love to hear from you in the comments. What is your all-time favorite bronzer? Is it one that was tragically discontinued? We all know that exquisite pain of having a beauty favorite that gets discontinued. I can think of a few off the top of my head. So even if it's an old favorite or a current, let us know in the comments. Now, if you've made it to the end of today's video, maybe leave a little pink emoji in honor of my bodysuit today. I always like to, ask you guys to leave an emoji in the comment section. And sometimes I have to think about it because there's only like a handful of emojis that I actually use day to day. So I need to brainstorm ones. I need to think of creative ones to ask for you guys. But yeah, leave a little pink one in honor of my bodysuit today. Anyway, that is all I have for you guys for today. Thank you so much for stopping by. Hope you have a beautiful day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.